Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over your next minor winter storm that's going to be moving throughout parts of the northern plains, the Great Lakes, and the Northeast. Again, this is not going to be a huge event. This is going to be mainly 2 to 4 inches in most areas. A few spots, especially in higher elevations in the Northeast, could get over 4 or 5 inches of snowfall. We're going to be tracking it out for you guys, as well as giving you my early thoughts on what could happen with the system. We are still about 2 to 3 or 4 days out in some areas from this event, so there is still time for this to change. And probably by tomorrow or by Sunday, I'll have my snowfall forecast out for this event. We also have very cold temperatures that are going to be moving throughout parts of the eastern United States, shifting from the central part of the country to the eastern part of the country, and then eventually that really cold air mass moves out and we go into more of a milder pattern. Not super mild, but at least warms things up a little bit, and hopefully that'll help with the energy restoration efforts in parts of Texas and the south central parts of the country where they still don't have power, unfortunately. So hopefully the warmer temperatures will help them kind of melt away all that ice and snow, and that should help things get going over those areas. Now, here's what the current National Weather Service page looks like, and there currently isn't a lot going on. We have some winter weather advisories in parts of the Northwest. We also have some hard freeze warnings in effect for parts of Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, and Oklahoma as well as some freeze warnings in effect for southern Texas there. We have some winter weather advisories for parts of the coastal Northeast from Delaware up to Massachusetts, and that's mainly from the second wave of that system that dumped over 8 inches in parts of New Jersey and Pennsylvania. The second part of that system is moving through right now, and that's bringing more light, maybe moderate, or even heavy snow in some areas, and mainly from that system, from the second wave, most areas will be getting a general 1 to 3, but a few areas could be getting a little bit more than that. We also have some winter weather advisories in northwestern Michigan, mainly from lake effect, and some winter storm watches also mainly for lake effect in parts of upstate New York, especially right around the Syracuse areas where you have those. Now, we had a bunch of high temperature tide records yesterday for the continental United States, and I'm just going to quickly run through them. All of them were in Florida. Immokalee, Florida got to 90 degrees. So did Palm Beach Gardens. Titusville, Florida also got to 90 degrees. Cecile Field, Florida also got to 90 degrees. That's an area west of Jacksonville. Brighton, Florida got to 90 degrees as well. That's right in the middle of Florida. And 9 miles east of Dundee, Florida, they also got to 90 degrees as well. Copper Basin, Idaho, the complete opposite. They got to negative 24 degrees. They were the national low temperature. The highest precipitation report yesterday was in Brevard, North Carolina. They got to 4.1 inches of precipitation. And the high snowfall report yesterday was in Gurdon, Arkansas, where they got to 21 inches of snowfall. That's from that system that currently is moving throughout parts of the coastal Northeast. That dumped a bunch of snow right throughout this area in Arkansas, and that general area is where you're dealing with 14, 15 plus inches of snowfall, and they're still shoveling out of that. So this was definitely an outperformer, especially over the southern part of the country and also over some parts of the Northeast as well. So it was definitely a very, very impressive storm. Now, here's what the European model is showing, and we're going to be kind of timing this out for you guys and giving you basically a breakdown of what's happening. We have a high pressure in place over the eastern United States. This is that big blob and air mass that's sitting over the east, and that's bringing in some very, very cold air, and I'll draw that in blue. These are some very cold temperatures in the 20s, even teens, and single digits further to the north, even a few below zero readings there. So this is going to be very, very cold on Sunday, and then as we move through the day on Sunday into the evening hours, it does start to pull away further to the east, and this is going to be why the system starts to develop. So here's our storm back through here. It originated in the northwest, moved further to the southeast, and now it's impacting parts of the Great Lakes by this point. So this would be by Sunday night. Notice that the high pressure went from centering over the Ohio Valley to now, if I draw the new high pressure in blue, it's right over here. So it's over just right around the mid-Atlantic by this point. So it is quickly heading out to the east because there's nothing in the Atlantic to kind of hold it in place like there was before. We had a bunch of storms piled up in the Atlantic, and that meant that the high pressure, which was sitting over the central United States by that point, couldn't go anywhere. It had nowhere to exit, so it just sat there over the central part of the country. That's why you had so many very, very cold temperatures reported throughout those regions. And now that's heading out to the east because finally there's an open opportunity. There's really nothing throughout the central and eastern part of the Atlantic, so there's nothing holding it back. So it's just going to move out, and that's going to allow the system to kind of pull away a little bit further to the north than the other storms have, because there isn't anything really holding it in place. There isn't anything suppressing it further to the south, so it's going to actually go all the way up to parts of the Great Lakes. The interior and northeast are really going to be the areas that get hit with more of the snow. This would be by Sunday night on the European model. We have some of that snow back through the western Great Lakes, and then we have some of that rain further to the south. Do watch out for some light severe weather. Not anything too crazy. I wouldn't expect any real tornado threats or damage out of this event, but you will have a cold front setting up. You don't have too much moisture out ahead of it, but you do want to watch out in these types of scenarios, because with some sort of cold front, with sometimes these weak storms, you could get a pop-up thunderstorm or two. So do watch out if you especially live in the southern part of the system, so right around here and areas east of there as well. You do want to watch out for some minor severe weather threats. Again, it's not going to be anything too dangerous and nothing too much to worry about. Just keep an eye on that. Now, this would be by Monday in the morning. We're dealing with that snow moving throughout parts of Michigan, Wisconsin, northern Illinois, back through Iowa, and parts of Missouri. We're dealing with that rain out ahead of it. Now, watch this high pressure. It's all the way back here, so it's actually bringing in a southerly flow out ahead of this, but because we have this low pressure up here, it's kind of stalling out. So it's not the warm southerly winds aren't getting all the way to the northeast, so you will still have some fairly chilly temperatures all the way into the northeast. So you have some warm air out ahead of the system right through parts of the Ohio Valley, and then you get those colder temperatures on the east side of the Appalachians like we typically get with these systems, and that's going to help press in a little bit of snow. And you might stay as snow to start if you live closer to the coast. Then it'll switch to mostly an interior event, where mostly areas that are maybe 50 to 75 miles interior of the coast start to get into more of that snowfall, and the areas along the coast start to get into more of the rain if current models are correct. And the models this year haven't been that good, so we do have to watch out for the potential that this suddenly switches and we don't even realize it. So we have to watch out very, very quickly because they do switch quite a bit. Now, this would be by Monday in the early afternoon. We're dealing with more of that snow back through parts of the interior and northeast. And then as we continue forward, by Monday night, it's snowing in parts of northern New England, back through New York State, and then into northern Pennsylvania. And then it pulls away further to the east. Your low pressure is now typically, or actually a nor'easter by this point somewhat. It's offshore, and it's heading out to the north and to the east. And then you can see that pull away into the Gulf of Maine, and we're not really dealing with anything after that. Now, here's another solution a little bit further to the south, and I wanted to show you this. Typically, I would just show the European and the GFS, but I wanted to show, because the GFS is showing something very, very similar to the European, I just wanted to show another different type of solution and another thing that could happen with this event. So we have the high pressure still in place over the eastern United States. We have that cold flow into the eastern part of the country. And then we have that low pressure over parts of Kansas and Oklahoma. Now, this is a little bit stronger of a low pressure this time, and it's starting to get defined all the way back in Kansas instead of like what the European model was showing, which was the low pressure closing off in parts of Iowa and Missouri. Now, that's very important because now we have a stronger system, and that's going to allow more moisture to come into play, and that's also going to allow more cold air to get dragged in. So you might start off as a little bit more snow if you live in areas further to the south and parts of the Ohio Valley, or even in parts of the mid-Atlantic and coastal northeast if this were to play out. And again, it looks like a minor event that gets washed away with rain, but there are some difficult situations with this storm. Now, this would be by Sunday in the early afternoon, and then into the evening hours and back through the morning on Monday. It's snowing over parts of the Great Lakes, and you have to get basically from Chicago northward is where you're dealing with the snow. Anywhere south of there is actually in the rain, according to this model. So we see that that snow back through the Great Lakes. We have that high pressure retreating out to the east, but notice that it lingers just a little bit more, and you actually have this high pressure. This is very important that it's actually kind of oriented somewhat like this instead of the typical high pressure, which is just north to south. So it's kind of oriented southwest to northeast. That allows more of a kind of block of cold air. It allows more cold air to press into the eastern United States, and that could be quite important with the system. So this would be what the Canadian model shows by Monday morning. Still rain for parts of Indiana, western Ohio, but it is switching over to snow in eastern Ohio, western Pennsylvania, and New York State, and even some parts of the Appalachians and higher elevations. Then it moves further to the north, but notice that some of these areas further south are also getting in on some of that snowfall right back through here. So we do want to watch out maybe a quick burst of 1 or 2 inches of snowfall before it switches over to rain. But if you live over these areas right here especially, you're not going to be dealing with any sort of switch over. At least it doesn't look like it right now. It looks like it should be a mostly snow event if current model projections are correct. And then this would be by Monday night into Tuesday, and we're dealing with that low pressure going offshore of Massachusetts and really impacting parts of Maine, New Hampshire, western Massachusetts, and into southern Vermont. And then we get more into a colder pattern or more of a colder flow because we have those strong westerly winds out behind it. Watch out because we do have some windy conditions behind the storm for Monday night into Tuesday over parts of the Great Lakes. So if you live within this area, watch out for some windy conditions on the backside of the system. And then this moves out, and mainly parts of Maine and eastern Maine are still being impacted by Tuesday morning. So that's the area that could still be seeing some impacts all the way through Tuesday morning. Now, here's what some of the models are showing for snowfall totals. And this is, again, going to be more of a 2 to 4 inch event, maybe a couple pockets of 6+ inches, mainly 5+ inches. I think some of these amounts are a little bit overdone. I think you could cut down 2 or 3 inches off of some of these totals in the Northeast. And this is also adding on to what we've already seen or what we're already seeing with this current storm that's over parts of the Northeast. So some of these amounts, these are basically all from the system that's currently ongoing, so you can kind of X these out. Most of that is not from what we're seeing. So most of this is all from what we're seeing from the system, and you can see that generally, again, 2 to 4 inches of snowfall. You might see a couple higher pockets, especially with areas that get some lake effect enhancement. So this is what the European model shows. Here's what the GFS shows, and it's actually quite different because the European model was showing more of a bullseye right around here, and now the GFS is showing that more aligned over parts of Iowa and Wisconsin. We're going to have to really figure out which one is more correct and which one has more validity to it, because that will also be a big player into how much snowfall you see. And then also the GFS kind of goes along with what I'm thinking in the Northeast, mainly a 2 to 4 inch event, but again, some of those higher elevations and some of the lake effect enhancement zones could get 6+ inches if this were to overperform just a little bit. Now, here's what the Icon model is showing, the German model, and it goes along with the European model quite well. It doesn't have as high numbers, and I actually agree with this quite a lot. It shows that general 2 to 4 inches, some of the lake effect bands right here getting in maybe the 6+ inches near Watertown, New York, and then we're dealing with that 2+ inch area or 1 to 3 inch area for parts of Iowa, southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, back through Michigan, and that's generally what the Icon model is showing. And then here's another model, the UK Met model. I will warn you that if you live over this area, the UK Met is only showing about 1 or 2 inches extra, especially for areas in southern New England, even though it's showing maybe 2, 4, even 6 inches in some of those areas. That's mainly from the system that's currently ongoing, which it actually shows a lot of snowfall with that current system, but most of this is all from that next system right here. So all of this is basically from the next system. You can see it actually shifted a little bit further south. It is a little bit ambitious on some of those numbers, showing maybe 6+ inches and more numerous spots in those higher elevations, and then it's showing a widespread 4+ inches. So we're gonna have to watch out for that. We're gonna really have to keep an eye on this storm, and I will keep you updated on if we do see any more updates with this event. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.